Welcome to Mixed Combat Radio. It is Matt Hunter here today, riding solo. And mainly, I was just kind of bored. There's a lot of news going on. Ness from, guy from TBV, the owner of TBV and everything. He's in Alabama with Deontay Wilder. So, obviously, he's busy. We can't do TBV lately. We didn't do a show yesterday with TBV. Feels weird. So, I just need to do another show. I'm just an addict. I'm an addict of this, just like you guys that are listening. All couple dozen of you. Thank you so much. But I digress. We have tons of news to get to. I've been going back and forth which one to cover first because we got tons of boxing news and we got some UFC. We have obviously UFC event on Saturday. So, I don't know. I'm going to go with UFC first just because there's actual fights to get to. I'll try to put... I've made a decision. I'm going to try to put timers on all the videos for when the different topics are. So if you wanted to listen to a specific topic, where to go. I know like Ariel Helwani does that, obviously, with MMA Hour and everything. So I digress. But anyways, UFC Fight Night 104, Dennis Bermudez versus Chan Sung Jung, or as the UFC just refers to him now, the Korean Zombie. And I don't blame them necessarily for going the route of sticking with the nickname because I think for a lot of casuals, they remember him for that famous, infamous T-shirt back in the day when fighters could have their own sponsors and have their own custom shirts. Reebok, how dare you? Oh man, I didn't even think about that, before the show. But Chan Sung Jung, he always used to walk out with his infamous Korean Zombie shirt. Is now going to be in a Reebok kit. That fucking sucks, but... okay, get to the positive, Matt. Get to the positive. Because as we know in this sport...
Shit happens, man.
Shit happens. So, I think that the main event's interesting mainly because obviously we have a very active fighter both when he's in the cage and just in terms of just getting fights. Dennis Bermudez fights quite often. And he's a very active guy when he's fighting in the cage. So I think for somebody coming off a huge layoff like Chan Sung Jung is, it's going to be really intriguing, especially in the first round. I think we're going to tell by the end of the first round if he has major ring rust and so forth. But if he comes in the condition that he left, and not necessarily with all the injuries he had, but just in terms of his skill, his progression, everything, if he's that same fighter that beat Dustin Poirier, that beat all those guys, I think he can beat Dennis Bermudez. It's close though, because I think if this was a 3-round fight, I would honestly pick Dennis Bermudez, to be completely honest. But because it is a 5-round fight, because Dennis Bermudez has been known to tire out after that 10 to 13 minute mark. I can see Korean Zombie winning the last 2 rounds or winning the second half of the fight and maybe finishing it in the second half of the fight just because we know that when Chan Sung Jung fights, he never stops. Like he's almost like a Korean Diaz brother in a way that he will always come forward, he will always throw. He's great at countering. I think his boxing is completely underrated. I know he's kind of known for brawling, but I think his boxing ability to slip off the center line, throw shots. I was talking about that with MD on the last show about how the center line is just a lost art in MMA. I know Jack Slack wrote on it and everything like that, but I digress. And then if it gets to the ground, I think that the Korean Zombie obviously has the grappling acumen to either win the exchanges on the ground or actually possibly submit Dennis Bermudez. This is the guy that pulled off the first twister in UFC history, and that submission is brutal to watch against Leonard Garcia. So I'm gonna hesitantly pick Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie. I'm a huge fan of him, I have to admit, and I think just as any MMA fan, they're a fan of the Korean Zombie because his fights are awesome. But if Dennis Bermudez went in there and win their finish game or something like that, and Chan Sung Jung just looked so out of shape in a sense, not necessarily physical shape, but just out of fight shape. He did not look like he belonged. I wouldn't be that surprised, unfortunately. When you come off a 3-year layoff, who knows what version you're going to be. And it's not like he was in the gym all the time training. He had injuries. He joined the military. So I don't know how this fight's going to look exactly. It's a toss-up in my opinion. I may hesitantly pick Korean Zombie to win. Decision, by the way. The next fight on the card is Alexa Grasso versus Felice Herring in the women's strawweight division. And I love this fight for a few reasons. One, I think Felice Herring is one of those like perfect gatekeepers in the sense that she is high level, and if you beat her, it shows that you belong in the upper echelon of the division. If you struggle with her or if you lose to her, it shows that you need some work still. In my opinion, she's a great gauging opponent for a lot of people. And, that's why. Who did she fight? Was it Paige Van Zandt when she fought Paige Van Zandt? Yeah, and and Paige Van Zandt looked great against Felice Herring, and that's why a lot of us thought that Paige Van Zandt's progression was going to be better than what it turned out to be. Again, it's going to be interesting because Alexa Grasso, good striking, good grappling, all around really good female fighter. I think Felice Herring relies a lot on her single shots, a lot on single kicks, very basic ground stuff from what I've seen. I mean, pick Alexa Grasso, obviously. I think she could be a future of the division. But my thing is that I don't think she's going to look that fantastic in this fight. I just don't see it. I think Alexa Grasso needs probably another year and a half of competition before she reaches Joanna Jędrzejczyk. And I could be wrong, but that's my personal opinion about it. I'm going to pick Alexa Grasso by decision. It's going to be close. I can see like 29-28 scorecards. The next fight on the card is one I'm really intrigued by just because of the style matchup and the potential for a finish in this fight. James Vick versus Abel Trujillo in the lightweight division. James Vick, obviously the taller, more rangier fighter, good wrestler, good striking, not huge pop. And then you have Abel Trujillo, who's just insanely explosive with his hands. Good double leg. Not the greatest at advancing position on the ground to look for a submission, but really good at once he gets to the ground, he's going to beat you up a bit. And on the feet, he's going to try to look for a counter. I think he's a comparison like a Hector Lombard for Abel Trujillo's there. Obviously a less skilled one, a less accomplished one, obviously, but the style's there. And this fight, I think, is going to end in a finish. And I've gone back and forth, to be honest, because there was a time when I thought Abel Trujillo was could be not a champion, but he could be a guy that fought some guys, fought some real top level guys. And then Khabib Nurmagomedov just ragdolled him, just mercilessly, and it was like, Abel Trujillo's not that good. So, we had to come back to reality in the sense about what he could do. And then you had James Vick, who sort of dealt with injuries and such. Both were at times super hot prospects in this division, and I think either both have plateaued or neither have really reached their potential yet. I'm pretty sure Abel Trujillo is the underdog, if I'm assuming. I'm gonna go with the upset. I'm gonna go with Abel Trujillo by knockout, if not round 1, early round 2. I just see James Vick throwing like a lazy leg kick or body kick, and Abel Trujillo coming in with a huge counter hook, catching him, and then, following up with just a barrage of punches and putting him out. That's what I foresee. Though if James Vick kept him at range, took him down, beat him up, tired him out, maybe even submitted him in the later round or like a head kick knockout, I can see it, honestly. I wouldn't be shocked, but obviously I think James Vick's the favorite. I don't have the odds in front of me. I'm just going off what I would assume. But I'm going to go Abel Trujillo by knockout. The next fight on the card is Ovince St. Preux versus Volkan Ozdemir. I've never seen Volkan Ozdemir, to be completely honest. Never seen a fight. Ovince St. Preux was viciously, like one of those knockouts where you worry about the person's health. Uh, just a brutal knockout loss against Jimmy Manuwa, and that was shocking. I thought he was going to knock out Jimmy Manuwa, and Jimmy Manuwa went out there with I think it was a big left hook, and just put him out cold. I like that he's getting what I perceive to be a tune-up. He's not going against a Ryan Bader or a Jan Blachowicz, somebody that was a little more accomplished, or Ilya Latifi, or anyone that has fought some guys. Volkan Ozdemir hasn't fought a lot of guys. So I think I perceive this to be a tune-up, but again, I think that Over St. Preux has plateaued. I don't think that he's gotten any better in my experience. And oh man, he's fought no one. Yeah. So I just looked at Volkan Ozdemir record, and it's awful. Just in terms of competition. But anyways, I digress. I think it's gonna be similar in a sense to what we saw with Alexander Gustafsson versus Jan Blachowicz. Clearly, one guy is better, but they're not going to look great in the bout because of the fights they had leading up to that tune-up. Over St. Preux has fought time and time again, great competition. He was a prospect that was fed to the Lion's Den, and the UFC never let up in the terms of matchmaking and who they put him up against. So we could see a diminished version of OSP, and if Ozdemir went in there and won, I would not be entirely shocked, because everyone has a point where they just decline, and OSP might be at that point. But I'm going to pick OSP because I think he is the better all-around fighter. I think he should win a decision. If he doesn't win a decision and he knocks him out, great. That's what you should do with the guy that doesn't have nearly the level of competition that you faced or the wins that you've had. But I still think that OSP is going to win, but I don't think he's going to look great in it, to be personally honest. He's never been a very active fighter when he's in the ring or in the cage. He throws single shots. Zero footwork in terms of defensively. He always gets pushed up against the cage. Very low fighting IQ. He's one of those classic, footballers that came into fighting because they weren't that great in football, but they were athletic and strong and built. And so much like a Sean Porter. Obviously Sean Porter is a little more credentialed, obviously, but that similar style is just they rely so much on their athleticism and their explosiveness that their talent has never improved in a way, in my opinion. That's my opinion. But if my pick wasn't clear, OSP. And then, sorry about that. The next fight on the card, I'm going to skip because I don't care about Anthony Hamilton and Marcel Fortuna. Angela Hill versus Jessica Andrade. God, this fight's awesome. And it's funny because, in all reality, the best fights on the card are the women's fights, to be completely honest. And I wish MD was on the show because, MD, he hates women's MMA. Just kidding. I don't know if he hates it, but he doesn't like it as much as the men's. And some people do. But I digress. Angela Hill versus Jessica Andrade. Angela Hill's first fight back in the UFC since she was cut, and she went over to Invicta. Got a few wins, and then Jessica Andrade coming off. I don't think she's fought since the Jessica Penne fight at UFC 199, because I was there for that live, and that was her first fight at strawweight. And she just, again, Penne is more of a heavy bag nowadays, so it's hard to tell if that was just because of her opponent or she was just that much of a bruiser, because Jessica Andrade went out there and wrecked Penne. I mean, she took her to the woodshed and beat the shit out of Penne. It was so brutal to watch. I remember I was like, man, like, this is tough. Like, I remember thinking, like, ref needs to call it numerous times. That's how bad of a beatdown that was. And just pure domination. Now, Angela Hill is becoming way more of a finesse fighter. Her striking has improved. Her footwork has improved drastically. Down at what's the name? All Star? No, it's not All Stars. What the fuck is it? I'm gonna draw a blank. It's Dominic Cruz's gym. Anyways, digress. Fuck, what is it? Never mind. It's been a long day. But anyways, but for work, because at that gym, a lot of people have been trying to copy Eric De Ferriero and Dominic Cruz. To me, have tried to make everyone copy Dominic Cruz's style, and for some people, it just does not work. Because that's a very unique style. Now, Angela Hill has tried to copy it, and I think she's been very successful with it. So will she be able to use her footwork to get out of dangerous positions and situations with Andrade, be able to land her shots, get takedowns, wear her out? Because I think Jessica Andrade is going to have a cardio issue in this division with how much weight she cuts. I don't know. I'm going to pick Angela Hill. I am. I think she's improved enough to go out there and win a close fight. I think this is going to be a very close fight. It's one of those fights where the first round is definitely going to go to Jessica Andrade. The second round is going to be close. Then the third round is going to be Angela Hill all day. But again, super close fight. And, there's a couple other close fights on this card. Or not close fights, good fights on this card. Adam Milstead versus Curtis Blades. Not a bad fight. Chaz Skelly versus Chris Gutierrez or whatever. The guy that was on the Tough Black Zillions and ATT that season, which was just god-awful season. I like Chaz Skelly. Chaz Skelly isn't bad. But then the next fight I want to talk about is Beck Rawlings versus Tisha Torres. And I think Tisha Torres is definitely going to go in there and just outwork Beck Rawlings and everything, because I think that's what she does. I think that's what Torres does best. She outworks you. She outhustles you. She outgrinds you. Her wrestling is going to be a major factor in this fight. Beck Rawlings' size, though, she's a very big fighter for that division. She's a very long fighter for that division. So if she could keep Tisha Torres at range, she could win rounds. But again, Beck Rawlings isn't that type of fighter. She's more of a brawler. She's a less refined gatekeeper, similar to like a Felice Herring. So I'm going to go Tisha Torres. It's so sad that this fight's so far down on the card, because in all reality, that fight, Angela Hill versus Jessica Andrade, and Alexa Grasso versus Felice Herring, are the three best fights on the card, other than the main event, obviously. And I've been of the mindset, personal opinion, that when you have a fight card, the first fight is the worst out of them, and the last fight's the best out of them, and you go through that progression. And when it's mixed up like this, it kind of just, to me, kind of seems a little bit disrespectful. Just my personal take on it. But yes, let's go to some of this boxing news, because it's a lot. I mean, first we have announced today via BoxingScene.com, Joseph Parker versus Hughie Fury is official for Auckland, New Zealand, April 1st. And with the purse bid, obviously Duco Events, the promoter of Joseph Parker, won the purse bid. That's why it's in New Zealand. I keep saying Australia. I feel so bad. And the purse bid was $3 million and like 11,000. And it's a 60-40 split, roughly. Joseph Parker making $1.8 million and Hughie Fury making $1.2. Both guys are going to get paid in this bout, so good for them. I definitely don't discourage anyone for getting paid. You need to get paid in this business, because it's boxing. You literally beat your head for a living. So get as much money as you make, as you can, whatever they're going to offer you. And I think purse bids have actually, the rise of purse bids, or the frequency of purse bids, I think has been a good thing for boxing, because it makes these fights happen. Because otherwise you get your belt taken. Boom, gone. Because if Joseph Parker didn't want to take this fight, boom, he'd be gone. Or if Hughie Fury didn't want to take this fight, boom, down the line. You're not getting it. And everyone will know. So I think purse bids are a great thing, because it forces these guys in these positions to fight the best opposition available. And I think Joseph Parker versus Hughie Fury is a tremendous fight. I think it's two guys that are undefeated. It's two guys that I think are still sort of in the prospect/contender range. Even though it's a belt on the line, Um, Joseph Parker's best win is Carlos Takam, Andy Ruiz Jr., and then Hughie Fury's best wins Fred Cassie. So those opponents to me aren't. See, it's weird because like you go to Wilder, he has Stavern, right? What Areola? Way declined Aaron, not even close to his prime Areola. Eric Molina, Artur Spilka, that's okay. Is it better than Carlos Takam and Andy Ruiz Jr.? I don't know. Andy Ruiz is completely untested. That was a similar fight to this fight where both guys were undefeated, both guys were untested in a way. Obviously Joseph Parker had the Carlos Takam. Carlos Takam is a borderline top 15 heavyweight. But still, these guys are prospects to me still. They aren't champions, They're top 10. Here Fury maybe top 15. He may be outside the top 10. I don't know. I have to go back in the rankings. But it's one of those fights where I think the winner obviously gets a lot of hype, and they're going to be thrust to fights with the winner of Anthony Joshua, Vladimir Klitschko, Luis Ortiz, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury. If Joseph Parker wins, that's a matchup that is there and obvious storyline. If Joseph Parker wins, who else? David Haye is an option. So to me, this fight for these guys is the door to all the big fights, and good for them for getting paid for this fight because I think it's a tough fight. Obviously not my official prediction because the fight's on April 1st, so I'm going to do a lot more tape study on them and review it. But like early thoughts, this is going to be close. This is going to be really close. I think Hughie Fury likes to be on the back foot. He likes to throw counters. He comes in from really odd angles. And then you have Joseph Parker, who is very fundamental in what he does, but he's very good at it because his volume is at a level that most boxers cannot match. And he's a big heavyweight. He's strong. He doesn't have that heavy punch like a Deontay Wilder has or Anthony Joshua has. But he'll hurt you. He'll wear you down just from the amount. But we saw with Andy Ruiz that you can counter him because of his basicness in a way. So can Hughie Fury stay on the back foot, counter him all night, or at least 7 rounds and win a decision? Very possible. Can Joseph Parker stay in his face and make it more of his fight, where it's about volume, it's about who can land more shots, because that's the type of fight that Joseph Parker likes, and because both guys do not have tremendous knockout power, this fight is more likely to go to decision, in my opinion. But I digress. I think it's tough. It's really tough. I'm going to slightly go with Joseph Parker right now. But I really can't wait to look at the tape. Can't wait to see if there's patterns to Joseph Parker's entries and exits. And correlated with where his hands are defensively, that a guy like Hughie Fury could exploit. Because to me, that's the big question I have: is Joseph Parker basic enough, and is Hughie Fury unorthodox enough to win? And I tend to think that Hughie Fury can pull this off, and we would not be surprised. It's one of those fights that it's going to be 50-50 because both guys are, relatively speaking, untested. So, again, great fight for the division. Winner becomes, I think, a huge name and a huge player amongst the elite of that division, and he can probably call out any fight he wants, to be honest. And the loser goes back to the queue, it goes back in line. It's going to be sad, but it happens. Every undefeated fighter loses an O. There's only been a few men that really achieve that level and be undefeated. So people lose. It's the part of the sport. It's okay. Do I have any final thoughts on this? I don't think so. It's a good fight. I'm glad it's in New Zealand. I think either way, the location of it, whether it was going to be in the UK in Manchester or New Zealand, it was going to make it a really great atmosphere. So I'm not too bummed out by it not being in Manchester, because I bet some people in the UK are. But I think it's a great fight, great location. It's one of those fights where the winner is definitely going to be the guy in the division, not in the sense of the best, but the guy that he might actually have them. He might be in play for more big fights than anyone else. Because I think there will still be a level of, well, this guy's still untested. He fought another prospect. He didn't fight someone like me. Like, people like Deontay Wilder are going to think that. And regardless of what you think about his resume, he is going to think that. Vladimir Klitschko will think that. Anthony Joshua will think that if he beats Klitschko. Luis Ortiz will think that, because they're like, oh, these prospects just beat each other. They're like, yeah, they got a belt. That's an easy belt. I'm going to go get that. So that's what I perceive it to happen. I think the winner of this bout is just going to get a massive fight after this and continue to make big money. Now, the next topic is Artur Beterbiev versus Sullivan Barrera is somewhat official. The purse bid was won by Quebec's Yelvin Mikhail, who is Artur Beterbiev's promoter, and he won it with a purse bid of $251,000. Main events, the New Jersey company, who is the promoter of Barrera, had a bid of around $181,000, and this is all according to Boxing Scene. We have 15 days, and this was February 2nd, so it was yesterday. So we now have 14 days for Mikhail, or Mitchell, whatever, however you pronounce his name. 15 days to submit an official contract for the fight, including date, location, and everything to main events, and to get everything signed. The fight must be scheduled within 90 days of yesterday. So within 3 months, this fight has to be signed, official. There will be a 75-25 split in favor of Beterbiev. That means, wow, man, that means Beterbiev is going to earn $188,000, $250 as well. And Barrera is only going to make $62,000. That's kind of, that's insane how low that is compared to the Hughie Fury and Joseph Parker bout. And not to say that that fight obviously is on the same level of Sullivan Barrera and Artur Beterbiev. No, one fight's bigger. Like, let's be completely honest. The Hughie Fury Joseph Parker fight's bigger. It's a title. It's two guys that are massive in their respective markets. Artur Beterbiev and Sullivan Barrera are hardcores. Hardcores know these guys. So I'm not shocked that the number is lower. I'm just shocked at how low the number is. I assumed both guys would be making six figures, to be completely honest. And it's kind of weird, like, not like insinuating anything, of course, but I'm just saying, like, it's just sad. It really is. I think this is a great fight amongst two arguably top 5 light heavyweights, and they're not, and one of them's not making six figures. Really? Like, that's just insane. That shouldn't be happening in any division of the sport. You're a top 5 fighter. Even if you're top 10, and you're making less than six figures. That's fucking bullshit, in my opinion. I'm sorry. But anyways, I digress. Because there's no location set, no date, everything. There were obviously rumors of it happening on the undercard of Keith Thurman and Danny Garcia. I would still like to see that happen. Obviously, with Beterbiev winning, and Beterbiev obviously being a PBC fighter, winning the purse bid, it is actually more likely now that that rumor is more substantiated. It's more realistic. So let's hope that it gets put on that card, because that'd be a great addition to a great fight that I'm going to be at. Woohoo! But digress. And I think that I may pick Sullivan Barrera in this fight hesitantly. I use that word a lot, I know. But anyways, it's a close fight from a style standpoint, from a power standpoint. Both guys bring heavy leather to this fight. Both guys, in my opinion, are tremendously skilled. Like I said, in my opinion, they're top 5 light heavyweights. So this fight is, in my opinion, will end in a knockout just from their style clash, their style matchup, how skilled they are, the power that's displayed by both guys. This fight's not going to decision. So I'm going to pick Sloan Barrera, but hesitantly. It's a very close fight. And I definitely know there's going to be tons of people out there saying, Better Beef's the man. Better Beef's the best. Better Beef.
Wrong.
Yeah, everyone gets exposed. People thought Kitrov was going to be the guy. And Emmanuel Azlim, beat the shit out of him. Knocked him out. So there is this idea that all these Eastern European fighters are just completely skilled and they outmatch everyone. They're powerful. They all have granite chins. No, these motherfuckers can get knocked out. Solomon Barrera is a big light heavyweight. I think he's bigger than Artur Beterbiev, and I think he throws with just as much power, and I showed it at a higher level. Again, Beterbiev ain't no Andre Ward. Sorry, guys. But what's the next topic? Now, I need to do, I don't know if it's official yet, but the whole Lomachenko-Sosa thing, is that just a purse bid? I'm trying to remember. I want to say that fight's pretty much official, or there's a purse bid scheduled. Anyways, no, there's a purse bid scheduled for like February 6th or something like that, right? Yeah. And I think it's a good fight. Lomachenko and Sosa is going to be exciting. Sosa always brings it. Jason Sosa is obviously a big friend of TBV, and we appreciate him for that. But I got to pick Lomachenko. I think Lomachenko does everything better than him. I think for some reason, because that Salido loss, there is a percentage of boxing fans, and you may think it's a bigger percentage than I do or a smaller one. I don't care. But a percentage of boxing fans think that Lomo is completely overrated. He lost to Salido. Jason Sosa is a pretty good pressure boxer. Pretty good at setting up combinations. Durable as hell. He could go in there and win rounds off of Loma. He could maybe win a decision. He can make it rough like Salido. And I'm just like, have you seen Lomachenko improve? Because he has. Like, just because he was so great in the amateurs doesn't mean that's the final version of him. That's never been the case. Especially at guys at this level, that's never been the case. They always get better in the pros. That's why you see guys wait after their 15th pro fight to get a big fight or a contender fight, because they need that. And I think Lomachenko obviously is tremendously skilled and at a level that 99% of the boxing world isn't at. So that's why in still a very short amount of time, he has looked the way he has, even after that Salido loss, which was his, second fight. So Lomachenko decision, good fight, tough fight, but Lomachenko just does everything better. I just do not see how anything else happened. I don't see Jason Sosa having the power to knock him out, and I don't think he's skilled enough to outbox him for a majority of 12 rounds. Like, if you see that, cool, but let me know how you see that, because I don't. I see a guy that's clearly levels above the other guy. So I don't know. It's gonna be a good fight, interesting fight. Cannot wait. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. The dog was just way too annoying. I had to tell her to shut up. But I think that wraps it up. And I think it's been a great show. It's been real. Obviously, you're listening to the show. You know what's up. You know to go to patreon.com/Mixed Combat Radio. help support the show so I can get more guys on all the time. So I don't have to go solo. You know, we want MD on the show. We want JP on the show. We want Santiago on the show. Hell, maybe we can even get Ness on the show. Nah, that's not gonna happen, man. He's not gonna have MMA. Come on, that's ridiculous. Anyway, obviously YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Facebook, all Mixed Combat Radio. You can find me at Twitter on Twitter at Mixed Combat News, and you can email me personally. Any questions, comments that you want on the show live. You want me to say it live on the air and talk about, whether it's on TBV or whether it's on Mixed Combat Radio. You can email me at matt@mixed, MIXED hyphen or dash, depending on who you are, combat.com. And obviously email me any inquiries you guys have. I want this show to be about you guys, because again, TBV, the voice of the people, Mixed Combat Radio, the voice of all combat sports fans. It's been a real one. Cannot wait to hang out with you again. Peace.